Right now, on To The Point.
I knew there were problems. I didn't realize they ran as deep as all that.
The local NPR station in financial trouble. They're not even paying rent. So what happens next? A mother now going to trial after giving a teen a pill with a deadly dose of fentanyl. And meet the No Sabo kids. Hispanics and Latinos not fluent in Spanish, learning the language and reclaiming their culture. Good evening. This is To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Capital Public Radio, our local NPR station, is home of up-and-coming music, news, and, well, those known donor drives. But they've been in financial trouble with recent layoffs and not paying rent. As our Jeannie Nguyen explains tonight, Sacramento State is now taking over.
For 16 years, Cap Radio was home to Nick Bruner, who hosted a show called Hey Listen.
There's a ton of music from the past, present, and future that nobody knows about, but it's still just as valid and fun.
But last month, Bruner unexpectedly lost his job when Cap Radio laid off 12% of its workforce.
I found out when I walked in and my email had been logged out and I couldn't log back in.
Now a new audit report shows Cap Radio continues to be struggling after it found it did a poor job of record keeping, lack of management, and financial oversight.
Our finances are not in great shape right now. We have very little cash on hand. And our reserves are pretty much non-existent.
One of the main issues included an $8 million loan that was supposed to be used to help with improvements to its new downtown Sacramento location. The audit found the loan was not properly executed, on top of not being able to make monthly rent payments of more than $218,000.
I knew there were problems. I didn't realize they ran as deep as all that.
With the majority of its funding coming from donations, gifts, and grants, the interim general manager says he's doing everything he can to get Cap Radio out of this financial burden, but it wasn't clear if more layoffs were coming.
We're giving it our best shot to make sure that we can deal with those obligations.
To help, Sacramento State has now stepped in.
We will be assuming a more active role in certain oversight in terms of finances and operations.
Making it clear it will not be involved with programming. And while things didn't turn out how Bruner expected, he says he has high hopes for the future.
I've fallen quite in love with Sacramento and its people, and it really makes me smile to think about what could be.
And Jeannie joins us right now. And we know that a lot of people in the community, they donate to Cap Radio. So what's the message from the radio station to those donors?
Now, Alex, as you heard, a majority of their funding comes from donors, but Cap Radio does not plan on changing how they fundraise, nor do they plan on asking for more money from their donors. Now, the interim GM did tell me that the money that they continue to get from their donors is still being used to give them the best product possible.
All right, Jeannie, thank you so much. And if you do want to read Sacramento State's audit of the radio station, we do have a link up right now at abc10.com. In other news, a mother accused of felony child endangerment is going to trial. A 15-year-old in her care died of a fentanyl overdose. We first brought you this story just last month, and we were in the courtroom this morning as Stephanie Buggs and her attorney told the judge they are opting to take their case to trial. So Buggs is accused of giving half a pain pill to her daughter's 15-year-old girlfriend to alleviate period cramps. But that pill contained a deadly dose of fentanyl. The 15-year-old's father figure who raised the girl wants to see justice and spread awareness about the fentanyl crisis.
Best outcome would be getting her the maximum penalty possible. And then hopefully she can learn from that. And hopefully if it gets enough notoriety, we can make people more aware of the epidemic that is fentanyl that nobody seems to care about. Because we're losing kids, friends, moms, dads, brothers, sisters.
We spoke with the defendant's attorney who declined to comment, and the trial begins January 22nd. More than 30 people are under arrest following the investigation of a Stockton police sergeant being shot. So this is video from the shooting back in August. The state attorney general's office says 30 search warrants were served in San Joaquin and Yuba counties. 20 guns were seized, including weapons and ghost guns. They say that the arrest in the organized crime group also stopped 2 violent crimes, including a planned shooting. A vote on a controversial plan to add affordable housing in Elk Grove has been pushed to October. The proposed Oak Rose apartment complex is a vacant lot on Elk Grove Boulevard, which is being looked at as housing for people at risk of homelessness. Some neighbors don't want it. The state also sued, alleging violation of state law. The project's developer did not show up at City Hall for last night's meeting. Elk Grove's mayor calls it disappointing.
And I'm very, very disappointed that a representative is not here, considering we are in active litigation and the community is here.
Public comment on the issue lasted for hours. The next scheduled vote on the project is October 11th. Fast food employees will soon get a pay increase here in California. Governor Newsom just signed a bill increasing the minimum wage to $20 an hour. But as our Alicia Machado explains, the increase will not apply to everyone in the industry.
After a decade of rallies and strikes, fast food workers in California will get a $20 per hour minimum wage in April 2024.
The future happens here first.
Governor Gavin Newsom signing the bill into law Thursday.
Mother of six, never thought that I can move mountains with the help and the support of so many people.
Fast food workers made an average of around $16 per hour in 2022. But will all fast food workers get the raise to $20? The law applies to fast food chains with more than 60 locations nationally.
It applies to 557,000 fast food workers all across the state of California, 30,000 different locations.
President of the Service Employees International Union, Mary Kay Henry, says the majority of which are employed by big chains such as McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King.
This law will cover both franchisee stores and direct corporate-owned stores.
But there are some exclusions. The legislation states that fast food restaurants that operate bakeries where they make their own bread for sale don't apply. Places like Panera Bread.
We went back and forth, and there was part of the negotiation. It's the nature of negotiation.
And restaurants inside grocery stores are also excluded if the grocer employs the workers.
And there were complex politics involved in this bill. Part of the deal, labor groups will pull a measure off the 2024 ballot. All right, next on to the point. It's about $6 a gallon for gas, and prices are going up even more. So when will the increases stop?
Today's highs in the mid to upper 80s at 85 in Sacramento and pushing 90 degrees there in Fairfield, but temperature is expected to drop quickly. How cool we're expected to get into your weekend.
And meet the No Sabo kids, Hispanics and Latinos that don't speak fluent Spanish, learning the language and reclaiming their culture.
I do feel more connected to, the community, the culture, and everything that comes with that.
All right, meteorologist Carly Gomez with our weather and some good news. Well, I guess depending on who you ask. It's going to get cooler.
Right. We're looking at cool temperatures and, dare I say, winter weather. I know we just kicked off fall, but we have to talk about the winter weather advisory that has been issued for Yosemite area and the high peaks there, as we are seeing and expecting as much as 1 to 3 inches of snow above 8,000 feet into your Saturday. Now, we will see a cold front arriving late into Friday, and this could last as late as Sunday, as we'll see travel may be impacted, especially if you have plans to head to Yosemite this weekend. The biggest day of impact here will be Saturday. As we take a look at this jet stream, you see that trough really beginning to start moving in here, and low pressure system will approach. That'll bring in some rain, scattered showers for our area. As we get into Friday here, 10 p.m., we'll see the first rain moving in from Redding to Oroville toward Truckee. And then finally into early Saturday morning, more scattered showers, but still primarily north. And then we'll see a few of those starting to move into the Yosemite area and those foothill spots. Even the coast starting to see some of that rain. It really won't be until we get to mid-morning and lunchtime. Most of the Sacramento area will begin seeing some scattered showers, and some areas may only get a few sprinkles. But the higher you head up toward the hills and the foothill spots, you'll see the better chances likely to see some more of those scattered showers. We're expecting as much as about 1/10 of an inch to maybe a 1/4 inch. Now, here's where things get a little bit crazy. Take a look at this Friday as we start to see about 25 to 30 mile per hour winds moving through the valley. This is Friday night football. Remember, it's a little chilly as you head into Friday evening, and we'll start to see the winds really picking up here, as well as we start seeing them slowing down through Sunday, as we'll see things about 5-10 miles per hour. Let's get to that 10-day forecast for you. Temperatures dropping significantly, up in the upper 60s here Saturday, mid 70s, turning 80s in the beginning of the work week, then 90s by the following weekend.
Next, onto the point. Gas prices are going up even more. When will the increases stop? And developing news as the clock ticks closer to a government shutdown. You might want to fill up now. Gas prices are about $6 a gallon, and they're only expected to keep going up. So look at some of the numbers that we found around town. Experts blame supply and refinery outages. They say that it's putting pressure on markets, including Northern California, because our refineries are now sending gas to Southern California to help with prices there. So this week, you could notice prices 10, 20 to even up to 30 cents higher at your neighborhood gas station. We asked Gas Buddy when the increases might stop.
I thought early last week we were going to get a little bit of a break, but now it's worsened. So to just kind of underscore that this is a developing situation, I would tend to believe that in the next 10 to 14 days, prices will peak and then we'll start going down. But if the governor steps in and issues a waiver, it could be sooner than that.
Last year, the state gave a lot of Californians money to help offset higher prices. Here's what the averages are looking like today in our region. In Sacramento, the average gallon of gas will cost about $5.85. In Stockton, the average is $5.71. And in Modesto, the average is $5.64. A government shutdown is looking more and more possible. Congress must pass spending bills before Sunday to keep the federal government open. Right now, the House Speaker is negotiating with Senate Republicans and Democrats at broader provisions, and House Republicans want steeper spending cuts. Meanwhile, congressional Democrats criticized the GOP today for holding an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden just 2 days before a possible shutdown. And if you have a flight next week, it could be disrupted if the government shut down. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says that there could be a flight delay and longer lines at airport screenings. The FAA estimates that it could have to furlough more than 17,000 employees. In all, 4 million federal workers would be impacted if there is a government shutdown. And ABC 10 is celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. And tonight, we introduce you to a movement of Hispanics reclaiming their culture through language. According to a recent poll, more than half of Hispanics that don't speak Spanish have been shamed for it. And there's even a growing trend online called No Sabo Kids, a grammatically incorrect way to say, I don't know, kids. That makes fun of Hispanics and Latinos that don't speak Spanish fluently. But as our Jeannie Nguyen shows us, it's not their fault. It's a side effect of racism that their parents and grandparents faced.
As a Mexican American, Eddie Sotelo is trying to embrace part of his culture, even if it means putting himself on blast for having trouble keeping up with Spanish lyrics.
I do speak Spanish. I just don't speak it well.
As Latinos, Eddie and his uncle, Edgar, felt like it was important to serve their communities.
Here we go.
The pair host the Showboy Show, airing on radio stations across the country and serving a growing population of bilingual Hispanics. Edgar says the show is like a family house party.
Those house parties in Latin culture, you'll see that as Latinos, sometimes some conversations will be happening in English, others in Spanish.
It's reality in many Hispanic households, being raised by Spanish-speaking parents, but not speaking the language fluently.
Man, it is a blessing.
Come on, Bess.
To be bicultural, tricultural.
That's the case for Eddie, and he's making it known, all while poking fun at his situation.
The listeners were clowning on me or were hating on me, saying like, I can't believe this kid is, labeled himself as a Mexican, but he doesn't know how to speak Spanish. He's a no sabo, he's a pocho, he has a nopal on his face, which means I look Hispanic, but don't know how to speak Spanish.
Humor has been a way for Eddie to embrace his bicultural identity and normalize not speaking fluent Spanish. This conversation can be embarrassing, difficult, and even painful for some.
This makes me teary as well. I adored my grandmother, and we had very superficial conversations, and I never got to have one of those real deep conversations with her. And I missed that, I missed that window. My grandmother was 15, she was 14 when they got married.
Micaela Moro's grandparents came from Mexico, but her dad was raised in Anaheim, an area that has a dark history with Spanish. By 1921, 26 states, including California, had banned teaching Spanish in schools as part of a growing anti-Mexican sentiment that peaked in the 1930s with the repatriation of thousands of Mexican Americans. The LA area was especially affected.
He was actually beat by teachers for speaking English when nobody in his home spoke English. He didn't know it when he started kindergarten. And he faced issues around town. My father was very dark-skinned and he was not allowed to do some things that lighter-skinned people are able to do.
Because of this, Moro says her family lost their native language because of assimilation.
Well, it just makes me really sad.
Like so many in her shoes, Moro is now reclaiming her history with the goal of being a fluent Spanish speaker, embracing her heritage. She signed up for a class at Casa de Español.
And I just know, my family is very proud. I will be able to continue to make them proud, and I look forward to the day where I can just hold a conversation and not have to think about what I'm saying anymore.
This resonates for Chris Martinez.
It's something that's kind of like sad, but also at the same time makes you feel like you're not alone. And sorry, it kind of makes me a little...
Raised in Arkansas, Martinez says his parents didn't find a need to teach him Spanish. As a kid, he quickly realized he looked different than his peers.
I was very aware of the fact that I was, Hispanic and not, white like everyone else and everything, and so it was a little tougher for me.
In 2020, he began reflecting more on his identity.
There was a big shift in America as far as race and everything goes, and I started to realize that a lot of my personality was based off of just pushing down feelings of being proud of my culture just for the sake of fitting in.
Last year, Martinez moved to Sacramento and decided to take action to reclaim his heritage. He started taking classes at Casa de Español.
I'm still struggling with to get through that kind of almost imposter syndrome of getting in touch with who I am. And but I'd say now I feel more empowered to do so, and I do feel more connected to the community, the culture, and everything that comes with that.
It's a goal Maria Harrington has been helping people reach since 2011 as the owner and director of Casa de Español.
It's really important that they get the full immersive experience, because when they go out into the world, they're not going to be able to have me there translating everything for them.
Aquí en la escuela.
This is Harrington's basic Spanish class.
About 25% of our students are trying to reconnect with their heritage in some way.
Like Martinez and Moro, Harrington says she's here to help her students rediscover their cultures. It's something she says she's had to do at one point in her life.
When I started kindergarten, one of my principals told me that if I continued to speak Spanish, that I would never be a true American. And so I stopped speaking Spanish for many years.
Like many, Harrington found herself not being able to identify as an American or with her native heritage.
You're not only ashamed being multicultural, you're not only ashamed by one side because you do speak it or because you like certain things from your heritage, but then you're ashamed because your heritage doesn't see you as being enough because you're from the United States.
Because it can be an emotional process for her students, Harrington says she has a specific approach to teaching.
You're here to learn, we're all here to learn. There's no pressure, there's no panic, and you're gonna be successful. And everyone here is gonna be successful. Students start off with an A+ 4.0.
Through this rediscovery process, we've seen it cause pain and also joy. But what's clear is it's opening the door for a new experience and cultural conversation.
You can't make the experience disappear, but hopefully by seeing that it's changing and the future looks positive, that it's a way for us to heal. And I think that's happening.
Despite the racist past, humor will always be a part of how some reconnect with their roots.
Don't feel ashamed. Have fun, and just keep on practicing your Spanish. And if you mess up, it's okay.
And if you want to check it out, the Showboy Show airs Monday through Friday mornings on 101.9 right here in Sacramento. And if you do want to take Spanish classes and want more information on Casa de Español, make sure you head to our website, abc10.com. Next, on To the Point, extra child care funding is coming to an end. What it means for Californians. The cost of childcare is on the rise. It's about $15,000 a year for one child. And during the pandemic, the federal government approved billions to help childcare providers and families, but that funding is coming to an end this weekend. So what happens next? That's the story that we're working on for tomorrow. Lately, there's been a big push in California to keep childcare programs funded. So we take a look at the programs the state has been investing in and how they plan to keep doors open for childcare providers.
We knew that we needed to increase the pay of childcare workers. We need to increase the number of families who could receive support to cover their childcare costs.
Tomorrow night on To the Point, how the state is helping families with childcare fees and the agreement they have made with providers. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To the Point. We are always working to bring more context and information to issues impacting us here in Northern California. So reach out if there's something that you care about or want more information on. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.